This is Judge Joe Brown, and you're watching We All Be News TV. News-free Dixie for the 21st century. Move someplace, you need to be able to build something. If you're going to move someplace to exploit one resource, somebody might want that resource, but you need others, so you get trade. You get trade going on. What do you have? You have an economy. Then you get into who controls the economy. You see it at that point, you get economics, government, and politics. Humans have always had politics because it might just be 1-on-1, 2-on-1, 1-on-15 in the little group or the small tribe or the village. So you have these things. So right now we've gotten a global economy and it depends on energy. We have machines we depend upon. They need fuel. What is it about fuel? It's a game. First off, most people don't know this, but the U.S. had the Shah of Iran call a meeting of the major oil-producing countries in the third world, or in Arabia. He called that meeting. Henry Kissinger, the U.S. Secretary of State, chaired that meeting. They formed OPEC. Somewhat later, this is about 1974, they decided that they were going to have an oil crisis. Henry Kissinger chaired that meeting. The oil crisis was designed to engender inflation, which would cause the loan obligations of the OPEC countries and certain interest in the United States, Great Britain, and France to have their debt load wiped out. What this was all about is that smart money at the time was to buy into Japanese and German automotive production. So if you had an investment in these things, you would be interested in generating a market for fuel-efficient cars. Hence, you get the first oil crisis, the price of the oil jumps way up, and you make money, you engender inflation. You know, if you owe $10, but some years down the line it's only worth $1, then your debt load dropped. That was good for business. Right now, you have this thing about OPEC saying that we have to charge what we have to charge. The American and British oil companies, that's BP, that's the green and yellow sign people, they claim they have to pay a certain price for the crude oil from OPEC. They don't pay a price. They get it and sell it for OPEC on assignment. They sell it to themselves, so they get 10% on the dollar. Now, right now, for example, we have an interesting situation where Saudi Arabia, at their cost, has been glutting the world's oil market, which has driven the price of oil way down. The U.S. oil companies and BP and the French oil companies have been acquiring massive stocks of oil at a very low price. OPEC just raised the price. Now they're raising the price at the pump, saying they've got to pay for it. But the practical consideration is if that is the case, that higher priced oil takes more than 90 days to get shipped over here. So right now we still have a couple of months left before that 90-day time expires, but they're claiming that the oil price has gone up. That's just the market manipulation. The tragedy about this whole thing, particularly in consideration with all of the stuff we hear about having American pipelines and revitalizing the American oil production industry, is what you have already in stockpiles here. For instance, Japanese made a bad mistake at Pearl Harbor. They did not bomb the oil reserves. Now, there has not been any oil put in these reserves since 1940. But if the United States did not import another drop, did not pump another drop, there is enough in these oil reserves in Oahu, which is where Pearl Harbor and Honolulu are located. There's enough oil there to run the U.S. economy at 150% of the current level for the next century and not have to go look for another drop. You see, it's a manipulative thing. It's about making money. There is no federal subsidy for alternative energy that is effective. There is no investigation of the use of solar energy, wind energy, electric energy. Now, if you live in the Memphis area, Shelby County area, your Memphis light, gas, and water bill is pretty high. But you will note that this huge Mississippi River flowing down there, deep as it is in certain locations, could be utilized to run water turbines that would turn generators that would produce electric current as an alternative to the nuclear power that's from down in Arkansas that's also into the TVA grid. So you would have essentially free electric energy for this area if you put those water turbines in there. There are other areas in the country that can use wind currents certain times of the year, like right now. You could generate a massive amount of electricity. There is no investigation of storage facilities, batteries, in other words, where you can store the electrical energy for other uses. Tesla came up a way so we could still resurrect this technology where you did not need power lines to transmit electricity. You could do it through the air like you do radio waves, and that would cut down on the energy loss. So we don't have that now. We don't investigate that technology. There are things that we could do that would save ourselves a lot of money, and quite frankly, we need that oil for stuff like plastics, building material, medicines, and other things that need the petroleum, not burning it up. A classic example in our history is the Royal Navy ran out of wood to build ships back in the 18th and 19th centuries when they were still doing that. They had burnt a lot of their forest up for fuel. We still had some, so our ships had good old stout white oak, which was very strong. They were reduced to using inferior woods. That's using a resource to burn it up when you could use it to build with. You see, fossil fuel also dumps carbon dioxide into the air. That causes a greenhouse effect. That causes retention of the solar energy that we get down here from good old sol, aka the sun. It builds up. You get global warming. You get the Arctic ice caps melting, Antarctic ice cap as well. You get a cut down on what they call the deep ocean current. That causes some changes, and you get a big mess. Like, for example, Anchorage, Alaska is on the exact same latitude as London, England. One is looked at as temperate, another one is famous for its glacier. That deep ocean current is slowing down. If it slows down just a little bit more, which it is likely to do, we could get plunged into an ice age. So global warming has as a medium range prospect, not just jumping huge amounts of carbon dioxide into the air and causing immediate warming, but producing an ice age. It sounds like a paradox, but it's there. That's hard science. And we get these bozos that go around and look at a forested area, trees, everything, and they say, oh, MG, looky here, what a waste. It should be a parking lot and there should be business. You see, they don't understand. They're deep off into what is an intelligent design, and, you know, one of their presidential candidates said the reason we have no dinosaurs is they didn't make it onto the ark with Noah. That's the way some of them think, but it's not what we need for this century. It's not what we need for this burgeoning population problem that we have. It's not what we need for an economy that's driven by a big lie, which is the all-powerful force of private enterprise and capitalism. We don't have anything in this country that deals with adjustment of the employment situation, so people who used to expect to get a very good return on their labor and achieve a standard of living that they expected are now obsoleted by industrial technology and computerization, and they have nothing that can help them out at this point, nothing to turn to, and the solution is the jails and penitentiaries. We use the criminal justice system not to control crime, but to encourage it and store surplus labor. You put them in a jail cell instead of a grain silo. You have a welfare check instead of a subsidy to the farmer. Instead of cutting back production, you have kids banging out, drugging out, dropping out, doing crazy things, getting arrested, losing their right to vote, and causing their communities to be so chaotic that they cannot engage in political self-help. Then when they get locked up, there's a huge money transference that goes on. You know, we gotta feed them, clothe them, shelter them, and all this other stuff, and we've got a extemporized solution to a mess that needs some intelligent application of intent, program, development, and will to keep this in place. Otherwise, learn Mandarin Chinese. I think the People's Republic will be running the world in a few years.
Thank you, Judge, so much. It's great to get with you. We love you madly. Keep on producing and pushing.
All right.
Thank you so much.